Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful woman who lived in a huge mansion with her twin brother. Her name was Daniela, and her twin brother Daniel worked in the office of the president. He was extremely wealthy, and his sister Daniela lived the life that every young woman dreamt about. Her brother took care of all her needs, despite knowing that she had a thriving business. She went on trips in private jets and had more money than she could ever spend. Her best friend Sarah always tagged along whenever she was traveling, and Daniela saw nothing wrong with it. She saw Sarah as a sister and didn't mind having her around at every given opportunity. She even opened a fashion business for her and introduced Sarah to rich clients and politicians who patronized her business regularly. Sarah was nothing without Daniela. She owed all of her success to her and showed gratitude by sewing all of Daniela's clothes for free. Whenever there was an occasion, Sarah sewed a matching outfit for Daniela and her twin brother. She knew how much they adored each other and loved to dress in matching clothes. However, one day, Sarah did something that Daniela never saw coming. It was a calm evening, and Daniela returned home in time to dress for the dinner that she was attending with her brother. She got dressed in a beautiful outfit that Sarah had made for her. Daniela was so excited to see her brother's own outfit. She sat in the living room waiting when her brother strolled down dressed in a different fabric. "What's going on?" she asked her brother, who smiled and gestured for her to turn. She turned abruptly and saw Sarah dressed in a matching outfit with her brother. Daniela could not understand what was happening. She stood there confused as her brother Daniel informed her that Sarah had agreed to be his wife. In fact, the party they were about to attend was her brother's engagement party, and Daniela did not know how to react. She called her brother aside and asked if it was a prank, and her brother revealed to her that Sarah and himself had been in a relationship for a year. Daniela staggered backwards as if struck by a blow that she never saw coming. Her heart pounded in her chest, not just from the shock but from betrayal. "A whole year?" she whispered, her eyes wide in shock. "Daniel, you were dating Sarah for a whole year behind my back?" Daniel sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I didn't mean to hide it. We just didn't know how to tell you." Daniela turned to Sarah, who stood silently, her eyes filled with guilt. "You knew how much my brother meant to me. You knew we told each other everything. How could you do this to me?" Sarah stepped forward and began to plead for her forgiveness. "I wanted to tell you, but I was scared," she said to Daniela, who rebuked her for her excuse. "You don't get to play the scared card with me, Sarah, because you chose not to tell me. You and my brother here deserve each other," she said angrily as she walked out on them and returned to her room. That evening was the longest evening of their lives. They drove off to the dinner, where friends and colleagues had already gathered waiting for them to arrive. The engagement dinner seemed perfect on the outside, but deep within, Sarah and Daniel could not help but feel guilty. They returned home hours later to find the house completely empty. Daniela moved her things out of the house, and her twin brother Daniel began to panic. He called her repeatedly, but Daniela did not respond. Her phone lines were off, and her social media accounts had been deactivated. Daniel searched every room again in disbelief. Her closet was cleared out, her perfumes, her wigs, and even her little puppy was gone. Daniel went to her office and it was empty too. He came across a note on the desk from Daniela and quickly opened it. "I gave you both my love and trust, but you decided to leave me in the dark whilst playing me for a fool. It's obvious I'm no longer wanted, so enjoy your perfect life." Daniel sat on the edge of the desk, his head buried in his hands as Sarah stood across from him trembling. "Do you think she will ever come back?" Sarah asked Daniel, who sat there mute and unable to speak. Daniel did not answer because deep down, he knew that his sister was gone. The thought broke him in a way that he could not explain, and Sarah felt so miserable. She knew deep down that she had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. No matter how in love she was with Daniel, betraying the woman who built her life from the ground up was a wound that could never truly heal. 3 days passed, and the mansion was heavy with silence. No music, no scent of Daniela's perfume, no heels clicking on the marble floors, and Daniel barely spoke. Sarah tried to be present. She cooked, cleaned, and even tried to speak to him, but it was as though a part of Daniel had completely shut down. He was now cold and unreachable, and Sarah did not know what to do to make it right. Weeks passed, and Daniel had still not heard from his twin sister. He was so worried, but knew that his actions were beginning to affect Sarah. Daniel loved Sarah so much and could not watch her suffer for what they both did. So, he tried ending things with her, but Sarah told him something that he never expected. She was pregnant, and Daniel knew that he could not end things with her, not after finding out that she was carrying his baby. Daniel could not help but feel excited. He was finally going to be a father with a woman that he loved with all of his heart. But even in the joy of the moment, Daniel's heart still ached for his sister. He had waited all his life to be a father and always envisioned his sister's reaction to the news. Now, he didn't know how Daniela would react to the news, seeing how she reacted to the news of their engagement. So, out of concern and responsibility, Daniel asked Sarah to move in with him. He wanted to ensure that she was comfortable, safe, and closely cared for during her pregnancy, especially with all that had been happening in the past few weeks. Daniel hoped that maybe, just maybe, living under one roof again would restore some of the joy that they once had, and to his surprise, it worked. Sarah glowed differently. She cooked every day, decorated the nursery herself, and smiled more than she had in months. Daniel found himself laughing again, slowly peeling away the shell of guilt that had once drowned him for months. Life was beginning to feel hopeful again, until one evening, when they returned home from dinner and met their house lights on, Daniel jumped out before the car came to a complete stop. Sarah followed him nervously. He flung the front door open, and there she was, sitting in the living room, her legs crossed, as she stared right at them. Daniela had returned, and this time, not as a loving sister or friend. "Surprised to see me?" she asked, her tone like ice water. "You thought I would hand over my home to a seamstress who went through my back just to seduce my brother? Nah, I just stepped away to plan my return." Sarah's mouth opened as she tried to speak. "Daniela, that's not what happened." Daniela held up a hand as she stared right at her. "Don't call my name. You lost the right to the moment you betrayed my trust." Daniel stepped forward, guilt written all over his face. "Daniela, I'm so sorry that I didn't tell you," he said to his sister Daniela, who informed him that it was too late to apologize. "You think she loves you, right?" she asked her twin brother Daniel, who she wanted to watch his back. "You don't know what you just got yourself into," she said to Daniel as she walked into her room angrily, leaving them in complete silence. Sarah stood there shaking as Daniel asked what his sister was talking about. "How am I to know?" she replied as Daniel stood there confused, unsure of who to believe. From the moment Daniela stepped her foot into the mansion, the air shifted. She simply took back control, quietly, slowly, and with precision. Daniel, out of guilt and fear of losing his sister again, begged her to stay. He told her she could take her room back, that nothing had changed between them. But Daniela did not want her room back. She wanted the whole house, and that meant Sarah out. So the silent war began, and Daniela was brutal to a fault. The next morning, she confronted Sarah and told her to leave the house, as well as her brother. But Sarah informed her that it was already too late. "I'm pregnant for him already, and soon we'll be walking down the aisle as husband and wife." Daniela did not flinch. She just stood there, calm, collected, and terrifyingly silent. Then she smiled, a slow, dangerous smile that did not touch her eyes. "Oh, how lovely," she said, stepping closer to Sarah, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "You feel you have won, right?" she said to Sarah, who stood there speechless. "Name your price, because I know you are here because of the money," she said to Sarah, who told her that no amount of money was worth abandoning her love for Daniel. Daniela let out a very loud laughter. She then turned to Sarah and asked the question that almost brought Sarah to her knees. "Does he know?" She asked Sarah, who shook her head and pleaded for her not to tell Daniel. But Daniela laughed and looked her in the face, saying that the only way that she would keep her mouth shut was if Sarah left her brother alone and moved out of the house. Sarah's lips trembled as she pleaded with Daniela not to ruin her relationship with Daniel. "Please, Daniela, please," she whispered, "don't ruin this for me. I love him and he loves me too. What happened wasn't intentional. But this child, this baby, is innocent in all of this. Please don't do this to your unborn nephew. My unborn nephew can born for all I care. How am I even sure that the baby belongs to my brother?" she said to Sarah, who stood there broken to hear such words from her best friend. Her entire body trembled like a leaf in the harmattan wind. Tears streamed down her face, but Daniela remained unmoved by her tears. Days passed, and the tension in the house only grew worse. Daniela expected Sarah to move out after her threat, but Sarah remained unmoved. So Daniela decided to teach Sarah a lesson that she would never forget. She made some calls to all of the influential people that she had introduced to Sarah, informing them that Sarah was using her fashion business as a front for shady dealings. And within a week, the damage was done. Clients pulled out and contracts were terminated. Sarah's boutique was raided for financial investigations, and her accounts were flagged for suspicious transactions that she knew nothing about. Her suppliers stopped answering her calls, and one by one, the glittering world that Daniela built for Sarah collapsed like a pack of cards. Sarah was so devastated, she cried her eyes out, seeing all that she worked for crumble before her eyes. Daniel could not help but notice his sister's involvement. He wanted to confront her, but feared what would happen if he ever did. Daniel was not willing to do anything that would make his sister leave again. He sat there, confused and unsure of what to do, when his phone rang. Daniel picked up the call, and the caller on the other end of the phone told him to stay away from Sarah. "She's not who you think she is," the caller said as the line went dead. Daniel could not understand what was happening. He called Sarah and asked if she was hiding anything from him, but Sarah looked him in the eye and lied. But Daniel could not help but feel that she was lying. He could see the tension in her eyes when he asked the question, and knew that Sarah was definitely hiding something from him. So Daniel decided to call the strange number again, but the caller informed him that they had to meet. Daniel, curious to know what was happening, got dressed and left for the address. For the very first time, Daniel began to believe that maybe, just maybe, his sister had her reasons why she never wanted them together in the first place. He arrived at the address and went in to meet with the caller, who spoke with him for hours. Daniel returned home hours later, furious and distressed. He stormed into the mansion, his eyes bloodshot with rage. Daniela was in the lounge, sipping wine like royalty, when he walked in furious. Without a word, he marched past her, straight to Sarah's room. As he threw the door open and confronted her. "How could you?" he said to Sarah, who pretended not to know what he was talking about. "Why did you do it?" he asked Sarah, who began to stutter in fear. What had happened was that Sarah hated men with a passion. For years, she turned down any man who came her way, saying that all men were scum. Sarah was into a blackmailing scheme that aimed to ruin the lives of men. She accused them of rape and used the opportunity to rip them of their money. One of the men she accused of rape committed suicide. After his wife abandoned him, he lost his businesses as well as his children, who refused to speak with him again. His brother, seeing how everything turned out, decided to investigate the story and realized that his brother was innocent. In fact, he was not the first man that Sarah had accused of raping her. They were 20 in number, and every one of them had a similar story. They were wealthy, successful men who mysteriously lost everything after crossing paths with her. The man's brother compiled files, photos and recordings of her patterns. Sarah would meet a man, charm her way into his life, and once he let his guard down, she would accuse him of rape. And with tears, she demanded hush money in exchange for her silence. Those who paid were spared public disgrace, but those who didn't, their reputations were shredded like paper. their businesses collapsed, as well as their marriages and relationships. And now, Daniel had almost fallen into the same trap. That's why the strange man called to warn him. He showed Daniel proof, voice recordings, bank statements, threatening text messages, and even an old video where Sarah proudly told a man how much she hated men and loved to watch them suffer. Daniel's world crumbled to see a side of Sarah that he never knew existed, a side that was so cold and ruthless, a side that hated men and was willing to go to any length to destroy them. But what Daniel could not understand was what he did to deserve what she almost did to him. "What did my brother ever do to you?" Daniela asked Sarah, who informed her that her brother was innocent. "But you, Daniela, you did everything to me. You always looked down on me, believing that you are better than me. I took you as a friend, but all you did was turn me into your slave because of money. The day that we met your cousin Trisha, she made a joke, asking if I was your brother's girlfriend. You and Daniel laughed your ass off as you went on to tell Trisha that Daniel would never stoop that low. Have you seen Daniel's girlfriend?" You said further as you showed Trisha pictures of the women that Daniel had dated in the past. Those words, although said casually, cut deeper than any knife could. Sarah remembered how everyone laughed, how Trisha giggled awkwardly, and how Daniel smirked while sipping his wine. She sat there frozen, humiliated, as if she had been stripped naked in front of people who would never see her as anything more than a charity case. She kept that moment buried, marked with smiles and loyalty, but it festered like a slow poison. It crept into every thought, every decision that she made since then. It wasn't just the joke, it was what it represented, that no matter how close she got, she would never truly belong. Not in Daniela's world, not by Daniela's side, and certainly not as Daniel's equal. Daniela could not believe her ears. "Is it why you got pregnant for my brother and pretended to be in love with him?" she asked Sarah, who laughed her ass off and revealed that she was never pregnant. "I fooled you all," she said coldly, her voice devoid of any form of remorse. Daniel froze in shock, the words echoing like scream in the silence. "You lied?" he whispered, his heart breaking to realize that he wasn't going to be a father. Sarah turned to face him fully, her eyes no longer afraid as she spoke. "I had to keep you close, Daniel. You were slipping away. Your sister was winning again, and I had no choice." Daniel's knees buckled as he sank to the ground, staring at the woman who he had grown to love, the woman who had wrapped herself in lies and worn betrayal like perfume. Daniela stood still as she watched the wreckage unfold. Daniel, on the other hand, could not believe what was happening. "You manipulated me, used my love, lied about carrying my child. For what? Revenge?" he asked Sarah, who replied him saying that it was for dignity. "I was always the outsider, and you two treated me as such. But as you can see, I have the power to own the stage, whenever and wherever I want. Your brother ain't shit," she said to Daniela, who could not help but ask why she hated men so much. For all these years, Daniela knew of Sarah's hatred for men, but never knew why she hated them. The only time she asked, Sarah fled up and kept away from her for 2 weeks, so Daniela decided not to pry any further. So, when she realized that Sarah was now in a relationship with her brother, she knew that Sarah did not love him. What she did not know was why. Sarah, in that moment, looked her in the eye and revealed that men do not deserve to breathe the same air that she breathed. She revealed to her that when she was 14, her school teachers took advantage of her. They denied ever doing anything wrong, stating that she was only an attention seeker. Her father, who should have protected her at the time, began to take advantage of her too, knowing that she had no one to run to. Her mother was dead, and this gave her father the liberty to do as he pleased with her. He even began to use her to entertain his friends, and for years, Sarah suffered silently as no one cared to believe her story. She grew up with deep hatred for men and exerted her revenge on innocent men who came her way, men who were married with wives but saw no wrong in chasing after a single woman. Sarah taught them a hard lesson that not only destroyed their lives but gave them scars that they would never forget. She then turned to Daniela and revealed that her brother ain't shit. You can have him for all I care, she said as she strolled into her room to pack her bags. As she was about leaving the house, the police arrested her for trying to defraud the government. Sarah, a few weeks ago, hacked Daniel's computer with a group of friends who tried to defraud the government of millions of dollars. For all this while, she pretended to be the perfect girlfriend whilst perfecting her evil plans. The hackers were apprehended and they led the police to the mastermind behind their plan, who was Sarah. Daniel could not believe his ears the moment he thought he had seen it all. Sarah delivered the final blow. Even Daniela could not believe that she had been friends with a woman who had orchestrated so much pain whilst wearing a smile on her face. Sarah was taken away in handcuffs, her face blank and unrepentant. She didn't resist or cry, and when her eyes met that of Daniela, she only smiled as the door of the police van slammed shut. Just like that, the woman they once called family was gone. Daniel and his twin sister Daniela learned the hard way that words are powerful. They saw firsthand the ripple effect of their careless words and learned never to talk down on anyone in their life again. The lesson to be learned from this story is that trust is a fragile gift, not to be played with or taken for granted. No matter how high one rises in wealth or power, cruelty, even in the form of a careless joke, can plant seeds of deep resentment. True kindness isn't just about giving opportunities, but about treating people with dignity, compassion and respect, because behind every smile may lie a silent storm, and when that storm breaks, it doesn't just destroy the guilty, it shatters everyone caught in its path. I hope you enjoyed the story.